Speech. It's the main way that most of us communicate with each other every single day. And yet, for most people, or for me at least, I never really think about it. I never really think about the way that I speak. Until recently, when I was eating dinner with some friends of friends, and an older woman complimented me on how I wasn't saying the word like. She said that her granddaughter said like all the time, and she couldn't stand speaking to young people because of their overuse of this word. So I started to look into it. Why do teens say like so much? I did a quick Google search and I found hundreds of articles written about this, about how the English language is dying. So I did a little bit more research. And I read that even though some think that our language is dying, most linguistics professors just say it's evolving. And that, like in all other things, older generations don't like to see things change. Filler words have actually dated back to Anglo-Saxon times, where, we've been doing this forever. We've substituted empty space in our speech with random sounds like etc. But only recently have these sounds turned into words, like, for example. So as soon as these intermittent parts of speech become actual words, it's when we start to notice them more. And it's not just young people. Plenty of people do this. Former President Obama has been criticized for saying a lot in his speeches. But then in a lot of his speeches, you notice that he just takes these long pauses where he stops speaking and looks at his audience and takes in the crowd. And that's what filler words are really for. They are used to fill time in speech because we can't all speak eloquently all the time. Our minds have to take time to think about what we're going to say next. So instead of just standing there silently, we say or like. And that fills the space and makes our speech sound like it's flowing and like our thoughts are continuing and we're not done speaking. But I wanted to know for myself, I wanted to get to the bottom of it, what did other people think? So the first thing I decided to do was send out a Google form to my entire school, asking them what they thought about filler words. I got 150 responses, which is actually pretty good, and 62% of the people that answered my survey said they knew what filler words were. And all of those people that answered could name ones. They named they named like. One of the other questions was a statement saying teenagers say like too much. And I asked people to agree or disagree, and to what degree did they feel that way. 91.3% of all the participants said that to some degree they agreed with the statement that the teenagers said like too much, which I thought was really interesting. 72% agreed with the professional understanding that filler words indicates a lack of confidence. 72% of 150 people said that when they use filler words, it's because they feel unconfident in themselves. And one of the last questions was, have you ever been criticized about the way that you speak? And 70% of the people said that they had. But the most interesting part of the survey was the open answer box, which said, do you have anything you'd like to add? And a lot of people had similar insights that I found, which was that filler words are just used to fill empty time. Other people said that the filler words make people sound stupid. Someone said that people that use filler words lack charisma, which I thought was funny. Interestingly enough, somebody said that in their experience, women use more filler words than men do, which is interesting because I've read a lot of testimonials about women who are constantly being criticized about their speech when we find that men are often much less criticized about the way that they speak, even though there's no evidence to support that women use filler words or any other speech defect more than men do. But that was just in my little Dobbs Ferry bubble. I wanted to get a broader scope. So I decided to come to New York City and find out for myself. Well, that was a nice montage of me being in the city. What came next was me actually trying to interview people, which was a lot more cringy and awkward than I ever could have dreamed of. This footage is also plagued with lots of audio problems, so there you go. I'm doing a research project for my school, which is in Westchester, and I'm researching speech patterns. So for my first question, I'm going to have you try to speak continuously for a whole minute without taking too many pauses. Do you think you can do that?
Yeah, I could probably do that.
Okay, ready?
I could try, sure.
You think you could do that? I have no idea.
You think you could do that?
Won't be hard.
Okay. So you think you could talk for a minute about your weekend?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
What should say about it?
What did you do this weekend? Are you ready? So the question is, what did you do this weekend? You can talk about something else if you don't want to talk about your weekend. Maybe your week.
I'll talk about a different weekend.
Okay, perfect. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go.
Okay, so what I did was this weekend I went out.
Okay, I came to New York, some friends of mine.
This weekend I played basketball. I was the best kid on my team by far. I had like 30 points.
I skipped class on Thursday, but I also had an appointment at 9 a.m. that I slept through. So there's that. Overall, a really good morning.
No one could stop me. I hit every shot I took. I'm really good, and I'm probably gonna be in the NBA. So look out.
Is that a minute? No, it is.
Okay.
No, it is.
That was
Okay,
pretty good.
perfect.
Okay.
That was really hard. That was so hard.
So next, it was time to ask them lots of questions about themselves.
Do you know what a filler word is? And if so, could you name an example of one? Good. Explain it.
Okay.
So a filler word is an apparently meaningless word, phrase, or sound that marks pause or hesitation in speech. So some examples is when someone says,
Okay.
so, you know.
Uh-huh.
So in that 1 minute of speech, how many times do you think you used a filler word?
I think, no, that's one more. But
So you actually did 11, which is pretty medium.
That's a good guess.
about around the average. So what do you think of that?
See,
You used the filler word 11 times. What do you think of that?
it's more than I would like.
So you said 15 filler words,
okay.
which is the most that we've gotten today. actually.
Wow, would you look at that?
It's fine. What do you think of that?
I'm rather, yeah, it starts off with one. I don't know, I'm rather sporadic, so I wouldn't be surprised.
So some criticize younger generations for their overuse of filler words and even go far enough to say that the English language is dying. What would you say to that?
Well, I think that's probably one of the stupidest things I've heard today. I did wake up an hour ago, but language changes and evolves.
I don't know, I don't think using filler words is killing the English language, and I think that languages are very dynamic in their nature, and so if you look at the English language 500 years ago, it's completely different than what it is today, and so I think it's okay. I don't think it's dying so much as evolving, and older generations don't really like when things evolve.
Have you ever been criticized about the way that you speak?
Yeah.
Who has that criticism come from? Who has criticized you?
When I'm in a foreign country, it's some kind of, I think, a little prejudice, you know?
Right.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Have a good one. Great time. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you for interviewing me.
Yeah.
So what did we learn? Well, for one thing, the sample size of the people that I interviewed was not that great and was not that diverse. People weren't as willing to talk to me on camera as I thought they were going to be, which is a bummer.
Excuse me? Would you mind participating in a quick video survey? Not right now, sorry. Okay. Excuse me? Would you guys mind participating in a quick video survey for Sushanta?
Okay, thank you.
I've never been faced with so much rejection. Excuse me? Would you mind participating in a quick survey for Sushanta?
I'm on my way to Carmine.
Okay. Excuse me? Thank you. That's okay. That guy just told us that he couldn't be interviewed because he really had to poop. I can't believe you just said that. Okay, let's keep going.
But I think I did get an interesting snapshot of an interesting group of people. And everybody that I talked to used filler words more than they thought they did. And everybody was self-conscious about their speech when I started asking them about it. I think everyone has a lot more things to worry about than what everyone else sounds like. And regardless of how many filler words you use, that shouldn't diminish what you're actually saying in between them, right? So, moral of the story, if you have something to say it, and say it with confidence. Because people are going to criticize you no matter how many times you say the word like. I connected my personal project to the global context of personal and cultural expression, which for, I think, obvious reasons, speech is one way that we express ourselves, and it differs between cultures. And I actually got to interview someone who was from Brazil, and he had a lot of interesting things to say about it. I think speech is something that we immediately go to express ourselves. It's one of the easiest and most used ways to express ourselves. And I think it shows a lot about who we are as people and who we are as IB learners.